aquaculture, genomics, precision farming is 16. Number of direct beneficiaries benefited under NHP till January 2020. If I tell you, so you will be surprised to know that it is 24,134. So this is all on record that we have benefited more than 24,000 stakeholders under this NAHEP directly. Accredited agriculture university with revised norms and standards is 7, and the number of HSE students, that is higher secondary students, who actually one program we decided that to attract the talent, it is very important to actually apprise our +2 students, 10th students, that agriculture is also a very important area stream they can choose. So more than 10,000 plus students have participated, and they have been actually sensitized for the agricultural education. And this key achievements under NHEP, if I talk in terms of the attributes, what was the percentage increase in student placement rate is actually target was 44%, but we have achieved 53%. And percent increase faculty research effectiveness target was 22, so 26% we have achieved. And the reduced student inbreeding was actually target was 21, and 23% we have achieved. And reduced faculty inbreeding, it is also 50% target was there, but 53% we have achieved. And improved AU revenue generation is electoral target was 10.9, and this has improved to 11.8. So everywhere you can see that this targeted value has increased. So achievement is actually towards more side. So for that, I congratulate our partner AUs for doing a good job, and they are definitely trying to achieve the activities targets, whatever they have committed. So overall, the project aims to develop resources and mechanism for supporting infrastructure, faculty, student advance, and providing means for better governance and management of agricultural university, so that a holistic model can be developed to raise the standards of current agricultural education that provides more jobs and entrepreneurship oriented and on par with the global agricultural education standards. So this was the main focus of our project. The mandate of ICR and DAR, includes promotion, coordination of education in agriculture, agroforestry, animal husbandry, fishery, home science, and allied sciences in the country. So ICR is now embarking upon an ambitious step in further strengthening the NAHEP and this NAR system, in the NAR system, with financial assistance of the World Bank by investing on infrastructure, competency, and commitment of faculty and attracting talented students to agriculture. So this is all about the NAHEP. So I would like to thank again Dr. N.K. Sharma and Professor R.P. Singh. R.P. Singh Saab is my old college friend. So Honorable Vice Chancellor of this university. So thank you very much, sir, for giving me the opportunity and to have to see the presence, and definitely I feel again honored to see our ex-DDG and ND, Dr. Rathod Saab, Dr. Agarwal Saab present, DDG, and our national director, and the Governor Saab, and other honorable Vice Chancellors are also present in this meeting. So I congratulate them for actually getting the approval of these projects in their university. So this is the opportunity for me here that I can request them to kindly implement the program in the respective university, so that properly, so that the achievement we can actually have in time. Actually, World Bank is very much interested in getting the targets achieved in time. Timeline is very important there. So every PI knows these PIs are there, some PIs are there, N.K. Sharma is there, they know that timeline is so important. So definitely, I will be happy to see that more and more faculty and students are benefited by way of their upgradation in the knowledge through international training, national training, because of this COVID-19. Now the people are not able. So I am really happy to see that more than 2,000 participants are there. They have actually joined this webinar, and they have been benefited. And it is not possible to collect all these people at a one platform physically. So even the COVID-19 situation is not there. Even then, we cannot have such the dignitaries and high-level people, those who are available here, eminent speakers, honorable vice chancellors, and everybody is there. So I congratulate the university for that. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and giving an exhaustive talk on an overview of NAHEP. And it is an extremely important project for transformation of agricultural education system in the country. Sir, thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Sharma ji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
now कहाँ गए आपके बीसी साहब के दर्शन कराइए कहाँ गए
बीसी साहब के कराता हूँ अभी कहूँगा मैं सर उनको रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा सर आपसे अभी बात करेंगे सर
हाँ चलो कोई नहीं उनको कहें मतलब हमारा धन्यवाद ज्ञापन अगर वो नहीं है अगर ज्वाइन इधर तो धन्यवाद ज्ञापन जरूर हमारा पहुंचा दें उनका
जी सर मैं उनको रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा आपसे बात
विष्णु शर्मा साहब दिखाई दे रहे हैं थैंक यू सर थैंक यू नमस्कार
नमस्कार
नमस्कार सर वेलकम प्रोफेसर विष्णु शर्मा सर वेलकम सर
यस
Friends, Professor Vishnu Sharma Sahib is an Honorable Vice Chancellor of Raju Vas, Bikaner, and sir, we are very grateful to you for accepting our invitation to deliver this important talk. And he will be talking on institutional collaboration for resource optimization in agricultural system. Sir, over to you, please.
Okay. First of all, I acknowledge thanks on behalf of Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor R.P. Singh ji and Dr. N.K. Sharma ji, who has given me this opportunity to share some of my views regarding this important topic. And I congratulate on the successful conduction of this webinar, which includes the different corners of the people from various parts of the state. And Honorable Governor Sahab also bless this conference. That is also a very important thing. I congratulate you all. So I'm sharing my PPT. That is very short presentation I'm trying to give you. I'm just trying to sensitize you with the message only. And the topic given to me was institutional collaboration for resource optimization and academic excellence in agricultural sciences. I'm audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine.
Audible.
So institutional collaboration, I will just take some 10, 12 slides quickly and try to sensitize some of the message among the audience. So we all belong to the agriculture university system, SAU system, that is largely part of the NAD system. And we all know that we are really doing the significant work for the growth of the nation and for the farming community. Because the agricultural universities are different from the general universities. Very recently, I had a webinar and then I informed to Honorable Governor Sahab also, with very stress that, sir, the general universities and the agricultural universities are entirely different in the functioning because they are serving only one stream, that is the education only, but we are serving in the three streams. That is the research and extension, those two entirely different streams which are directly serving to the society. And that's why those universities are bearing the immense importance and they should be viewed with a different viewpoint than the general university that I already stressed and emphasized to Honorable Governor Sahab, and he was very much convinced with that particular point. So here, within the room, I'm also discussing that thing, that we should see our achievement, we should see the accomplishment with that viewpoint only. We should not put in the one basket, but in the different all agricultural system. Because we all know that how much pressure, how much responsibility, how much delivery, how much address of the issues is required by the agricultural scientists to the farming community. So with that, we are doing a conventional agricultural education. That is the agricultural education we are going through the ICR system or the Veterinary Council of India system, and regularly it is being improvised in the different deans committee or the different review committee and so on. It's a very nice system, one of the best system in the world, and many people and many countries have been studying those systems because running such a big system within a one umbrella is not an easy task. So we need some of the radical reforms now, but we need reforms now. So given to my topic, I'm coming to that very quickly, that there is urgent need to strengthen the higher agricultural education system in India. And the ICR recently, Dr. R.B. Sharma, he has very nicely informed about the this World Bank project, NAHEP, that is really a very sea change project for the agricultural education institutes. And the quality, for the quality control, the accreditation system which has adopted by the ICR is also very good reform for the improving the quality in the agricultural education system. So looking to the vast size of the country, vast size of the institutes, and the magnitude, what we are doing is really significant. But we have to improve even then in the infrastructure, in the faculty and student advancement, and better governance and management. I have taken it infrastructure, faculty and student advancement, and better governance. So the only answer which I see to these all improvement, because we are having the crunch of the funds, we are having crunch of the faculty, we are having crunch of the exposure, even you can say. Okay, right. So for that all we are having the crunch of resources, deficiency of resources, limitation of the resources. So how we have to improve those three aspects, that is only and only through institutional collaboration, is one promising option available in front of all SAUs, that we can improvise our three systems. How we can improvise, we will see quickly. It's now unanimously accepted, and unanimously it is now, I mean, consented that the diversity is the keyword now. Diversity is the keyword for progress. Diversity is anything. Diversity, even if simply I say diversity in food, definitely the food will be more nutritious, the food will be more digestible, the food will be more, I mean, promising. Diversity in admission of the students, the admission of the students, so the class will be more, I mean, promising. They will be more informed from the different parts of the country. They will have got different cultures in one class. So we all know that all higher education institutes, they are now promoting diversity. Even the best institutes of the world are now attracting the students from the diverse regions and the diverse fields. Similarly, diversity is the keyword for the progress here. We are now, I mean, we are directing, we are addressing our systems, our agricultural systems, our education, our research, extension activities only and only through our own viewpoint only. But when we will collaborate with any other institute, when we will liaison with any other institutes, it gives us sense of diversity, input of diversity. And that input of diversity is definitely a seed for the progress, that I assure you. It increases the capacity and potential enhanced through entering into the diversified field. It's not necessary that we have to collaborate among agricultural institutes. No, we can collaborate with the Indian Institute of Science. We even, an agronomy student can collaborate with a student of the physics. So they will find some of the common point where they can work on. And that is the diversity which requires in our institute, which are being viewed only and only through the traditional point of view so far. So collaboration brings the diversity, and it gives a complete new insight from different perspective. Like, I'm seeing the veterinary science with a different perspective through which I have been I've been studied, I have gone through, I have developed, I have matured. That perspective has set in my mind. But when I talk to any agricultural scientist, he expects different address from the veterinary scientist. Then I talk to a different general science university, they expect different thing. If I talk to a chemistry person, they expect different things. So it gives completely a new insight and a different perspective altogether. And that is the beauty of the diversity. Why diversity is required. Some specific solutions for specific problems can be found out through collaboration. A simple example. As a Vice Chancellor, I have observed many small things due to non-information, having no information about the very small things. we are not addressing the big mandates actually. I was working as a Vice Chancellor of the SKRAU for around 10 months. I worked for the Vice Chancellor of the Jain and Vyas University for around 2 months or so. But I find very fine points from there, which I applied there, and they were not applied for the last 20 years because we were not knowing them. Similarly, the collaboration is not only the research collaboration, the collaboration is at the level of the governance, the collaboration is at the level of the administration, the collaboration is at the level of the management. The collaboration is to find out the solutions, day-to-day accounting, or some solutions which what university has adopted, one university has adopted, and then why not we can adopt it. That's the advantage of the collaboration. So, in my viewpoint, the innovative thinking is required, and the innovative thinking is required in the leadership and the governance first. Because if the leadership and governance have the innovative thinking, then the system can proceed. So system has to require the innovative thinking should not necessarily that innovative thinking or the innovative or the innovations or the improvements are required only at the research collaboration or the academic collaboration. No, they are required at the governance level also. So quickly, the three academic excellence in SAUs I am coming to. Academic excellence, research quality, and reach to farmers. These are the three, these are the three areas which we have to address. We have to be excellence in academics. We have to increase our enhance excellence. We have to enhance the quality of the research. And we have to reach more effectively to the farmers. Not in the number, but in the quality. How much our research or the implements or our principles have been adopted by the farmers, and how much principles have been realized at the farm level, that is the reach to the effective reach to the farmer. So we have to go with these principles only. Just a minute. Academic excellence. Academic excellence, I have put 4 things. Licensing. It's not a mutually benefit thing. Our university can have license to any other university, that is, or some university can come to me. That is not necessarily that we both have some mutual interest, not necessarily. We are the university system, we are the public system. If any university is requiring any specific area significance collaboration with us, guidance with us, some of the directives from us, then we should provide open for the licensing and provide guidance to that. And that should be on record. That is my purpose only to say. Partnership, the joint research projects, we all know nowadays, all international agencies, if you go through the Wellcome Group Trust or the Canada Development Agency or any other international projects, you will see they are promoting. Even if you see to the BIREC projects or some of the DSP or INSA projects, now they are inviting the projects which have been submitted by the 2 or 3 partner agencies. And if the partner agencies are more diverse, the project is more promising. So for that partnership, the joint research projects, it is required the collaboration. Exchange of the faculty and PG students. That is one aspect I want to say. Even if there are 2 universities in a city, 3 universities in a city, the faculty have not exposed to those, formal exposure to that university, formal exposure. One faculty goes or attends something and come back, that is a different thing. But the formal exposure of the faculty to some of the core universities of the country should be there. And particularly, we should focus for the PG students. The PG students, if at the council level also, we can develop some of the modality so that at least it is essential for the PG students to spend some part of their, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that can covered under the curriculum also, something like that, into some other university essentially, so that they can also learn many things from them, and the other university people can also learn many things from us. So that can be a good part for the collaboration, part of the collaboration. And dialogue. The dean director and dialogue at the dean director and head of the department level That is required actually. That I told initially. There are many administrative and management problems are there in individual. We don't talk them openly to others due to one or other reason. But when we have an official channel for that, we will sit together, we will ask, we will have a presentation of the dean office, of the director office, or of the head of the department office. And then if definitely, if the 5 people sitting together, there will be information sharing at the same time, there will be solution to many small problems. That is my personal viewpoint that I'm sharing with you. Resource generation strategies, sharing of the resources enhanced. We are having limited resources, but we can put on our website the resources available and the resource reach is available. So the resource reach is a new word which is being coined, and you will find in many great universities of the world, they are also putting those that they have resource reach in this university through formal collaboration, So resource reach can be increased. Our students can go anywhere where we have the collaboration, and those things should be promoted. The main thing is that should be promoted. So we should have some out-of-the-box degree diploma programs by collaboration. That can be a sandwich type of program. So I have many things in my mind which can be, I cannot complete it as a veterinary university, those things alone, or the agriculture SKRU cannot think many things alone, but together we can come out with some of the innovative degree or diploma programs or the study programs. So those can be the out-of-the-box programs, which can be developed through the collaboration of the 2 diverse universities. Attract industry funding for diverse and collaborative research and apprenticeship program. Particularly apprenticeship of the students are required, like in veterinary and agriculture students, they are having many of the common programs are there. The food industry programs are there. They're like, we are specialized in the animal product industry and they are specialized in the food and so on. So, but some of the common exposure is required for orientation of both the students and the industry. Industry always promote such students which have already gone apprenticeship from the diverse group of the industries. So we can create the incubation centers in our universities, in their universities, but through collaboration, we can provide some of the exposure to the students so that the industries will attract for the more funding also. So the key points now I tell you. In present time when financial and human resource limitation is prevailing in higher education institutes, institutional collaboration is a promising answer to address the limitation. That is one thing. That when we are really having limitations, and if we have will to proceed, to promote and to progress, then the institutional collaboration is one promising option available with us. And then collaborating with most diverse institutes should be given most top priority, and that improves the capacity and potential drastically, as it provides a complete fresh insight of the management model, address of scientific principle with different perspective to the society, and very fertile plethora for the future programs. So those 2 important points I want to sensitize all of you, that we should really give a top priority of collaboration, effective collaboration, not collaboration, in 2 sense. And for that, it is not the MOU to be signed. It is the MOU to be monitored. There are various MOU to signing. MOU is very easy and everybody wants to sign that for one or the other reason. But how much benefit have been yielded and harnessed out of that MOU, that has to be monitored. And the MOU should be put on the website. How many advantage and the benefit have been taken out of that MOU, we should view it. We should make a committee every 3 months or 4 months. That committee should review the benefit out of the MOU. And then this process should continue, and in system, then this type of culture will progress. So thank you very much. I just wanted to give you all those two brief points and just wanted to sensitize that in this era of this limitation, financial limitations are always there. We cannot be always, lavish with the finances, but the collaboration is not required only for the finances. The collaboration is not only for the MOUs, but the collaboration is to develop the capacity and potential of the university and as an individual in general. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Actually, थोड़ा लाइन से हटके था, but it needs a very young and dynamic leader like you. And so the topic was given to you, sir, and I think it is beyond imagination, sir. We are extremely grateful, and I have no words to thank you, sir.
Very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Now I would request to Dr. Alka Singh. Dr. Alka Singh is a professor and head.
Alka madam, आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am very much here.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, madam. Welcome. Professor Alka Singh is a professor and head Department of Agricultural Economics at IRI, and she would be talking on online agricultural education system. Madam, please, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. So first of all, my thanks to the organizers of this national webinar by Swami Keswanand Rajasthan Agricultural University, Bikaner, for giving me an opportunity to basically speak to my mind and whatever vision or whatever thoughts I have on this important topic which Dr. Sharma has assigned to me, that is new paradigms of online agricultural education in post-COVID scenario, and which everyone is experiencing. It's a differential impact on not only in agricultural education system or education system in general, but in different walks of economy also. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. Sir, I would just like to share the screen. Excuse me. I would just like to share the screen.
Dr. Arvind? Dr. Arvind?
आदि सर उधर से मैडम की स्क्रीन शेयर मैडम ही चला सकती है, परमिशन दे दी इधर से.
अच्छा. Madam, now you can share.
Okay, okay, sir. I will just. No, it is okay. It is.
एक बार आई थी मैडम.
I really screen sharing has stopped as the shared window is closed. I really.
थोड़ा हेल्प कीजिए मैडम का.
Sir, can I share now?
हाँ मैडम करो एक बार.
Is it coming?
अभी नहीं आ रहा है मैडम.
Just a minute. I don't know, sir, why it says share.
Now I think.
Okay,
Yes, definitely,
okay,
ma'am. You
okay.
was able to share the screen.
Okay, sir. Okay, fine. Is it fine?
Your name is there, but
It is-
the slide is not
Yes,
there.
madam. Yes, madam. AGECO 525 NRM
No.
down impact work.
This is coming like this. This is not coming?
Yes, madam.
Okay. So now it's on the full screen, sir.
Oh, madam, it is not on
मैम
the full
आपकी
screen.
स्क्रीन पे MS टीम खुली हुई है,
Oh,
माइक्रोसॉफ्ट टीम शेयर कर रहे हो आप.
oh my God. I really do not know why it is not coming. Sir, I think I should just start as such because I'm not able to do that.
Okay, madam. Okay, please. Please.
Yeah. So the topic assigned to me is new paradigm of online agricultural education in post-COVID scenario. So what I would just like to emphasize that there is now we are witnessing a kind of technology-driven transformation of education system, and basically, we are just witnessing changing student lifestyle and technological advancement, which is quite rapid, particularly in last 2 decades. And that basically demands from learner side a kind of flexible learning environment. And in response to that, many of the universities, they are just offering this kind of learning environment, which is basically suiting to diverse need of their learning community. And hence we have just seen that.
Excuse me, Alka ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but we are able to see your screen, but you are showing us the Microsoft Team window. So request you to please share the PowerPoint presentation. So in that case, you first stop sharing the screen and then again you start the sharing screen of the PowerPoint.
Okay. I do not, why it's not coming to. Your screen is paused, it's showing. So should I just stop the sharing?
Yes, ma'am.
So is it? Is it coming now?
No, ma'am, we are unable to see your screen.
You're not able to see this slide?
Yeah, no, right now we are able to see only Microsoft Team window.
I really do not. I think I just should just stop the sharing.
Share the screen.
Is it now closed? Is it now coming?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now we are able to see presentation.
Okay, that's fine. That's fantastic. So I was just discussing about the changing student lifestyle and technological advancement, which basically given a kind of demand of new kind of system, which is where more of the online content and distance learning space is basically required. And in all over globe of agriculture or even higher education space, we can see this kind of transformation. And this kind of learning environment is considered to be a kind of more self-directed and more interactive as compared to our brick and mortar model, or which we say a kind of tradition of more teacher-centric model, where teacher or lecturer basically impart information and very little comes back from the student to teacher. So it is considered relatively a kind of less interactive. So in this kind of new learning environment, which has more component of online or distance education, we can just expect a wider student participation in far-flung areas, more of the equity issues, and of course, increasing cost effectiveness of this system. Because with this given budget, you can have the more outreach. Similarly, just like we are seeing in webinar, sir, that you are saying that more than 2,000 attendees are there. But in if we have that kind of face-to-face kind of activity, then we could hardly invite at the most 200, 300 participants. Similarly, in this unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic situation, which is basically a kind of caused a disruption in various kinds of academic activities. Basically, this kind of transformation, which is towards a digital platform, it has made more relevancy. And this is the kind of opportunity actually that we can have more leverage of this tool. And of course, adapting to unanticipated global change is, we have to do that. And the future is likely to be sorry, with a new game, with new rules, and of course with a lot of preparedness also. If you see our Indian agricultural education system, as my predecessor have already talked about, that under the umbrella of ICAR, we have state agriculture universities, deemed universities like IRI, central agriculture universities, central universities with agriculture faculty, and lots other of public and private colleges to cater the needs, or they are the providers of this learning environment. And we have roughly faculty of approximately 35,000 who, as Dr. Sharma rightly pointed out, that they are engaged in 3 different activities: research, teaching, as well as extension. And with approximately 1.5 lakhs of students overall, which are receiving this kind of agriculture education. And I must compliment to the agriculture education system under the umbrella of ICAR, that in this COVID-19 pandemic, actually agriculture universities responded very timely and proactively. And they have started online, different kind of online academic activities, including this one, which is also a very good in terms of sensitizing or giving information on at more equitable, more flexibility is there, more affordable is also there. As per the time and place requirement, you can have that kind of courses. It is also more conducive for more self-regulated kind of learning, where a person or student can basically choose a particular set of content to supplement his information or learning outcome. And different formats are also there. One is, of course, web-based, where no face-to-face teaching. Of course, in contrast to this, we have traditional courses with web-based supplements, which we are doing right now also, that we have a trimester system or semester system, but we have a lot of activities, exercises, projects, or information tools, which are web-based. Here we are supplementing some of the information. The other one, which is also more becoming popular, is a blended one or hybrid format, where some of the activities are in class face-to-face or a traditional system, and many of the practicals or exercise or assignments or other kind of things are web-based also, or activities-based also, or game-based also, which is also quite enhancing learning activity. So we are just seeing that over a period of time, we are moving towards a more diverse kind of higher education landscape, which basically demands a variety of challenges also. For example, like we have seen different MOOCs, and MOOCs are offered by different platforms, like Coursera is there, then EBX is there. In India, we have Swayam platform is there, where many of the online MOOCs are there. And of course, these online MOOCs are basically aimed of having large scale participation through web-based. And here very nominal fee or almost no fee is being charged, and students are being provided with course materials, online assignments, discussion group tools also. And they also provide a certificate also, or a form of assessment also based on certain nominal fee, or even somewhere no fee also. So we have a different kind of tool this, where many of our students in agricultural stream also are quite aware of these kind of tools. Now, the important thing is that we have to understand basically the learning environment here, that what kind of readiness we need to have. And incidentally, at this point of time, the readiness or acceptance of learning or preference of e-learning has basically increased because of this lockdown. So this is a kind of which has given us an opportunity basically to prepare ourselves that how we are ready for e-learning, because many component of readiness we can just see, like technology, not only technology in terms of hardware but in software also, that what kind of learning platforms or digital platforms are there, are suitable for content creation, how the particular content can be made more effective through the use of these technologies. Then people needs and their capacity building, their digital literacy, that is also very, very important. Similarly, some kind of content are not very much amenable for distance or online platform. So now we need to think in a very creative way that what kind of modules we can devise, which makes those kind of subjects also more digestible on digital platform. Similarly, institutions, infrastructure investment, then making some kind of incentivization to faculty and students going for those platforms for wider reach, that is also very much important. Then the second point which is important is acceptance for e-learning, which basically more of a kind of our preconceived notions, behavior, perceptions, knowledge, and how much we are exposed to those kind of platforms or those kind of learning environment, that basically depend. But incidentally, as I said earlier, that during this period, our acceptance for e-learning is quite, we have actually accepted this one. And of course, capacity building of e-learning is very, very important for all the stakeholders, not only for the teachers, but for the educators, for policymakers, for students. Everybody is basically, needing a kind of specific chosen component of capacity building for enhancing e-learning. Then I would just like to show before you that what are the evidence-based learnings on best practices which have been practiced by different institutions. So we have done a kind of meta-analysis of whatever the literature is available. And I am here very happy to see that there is not many literature basically viewed that not much significant difference between online learning and face-to-face learning is there. However, there are mixed references are there, but still many references, they have noted this kind of positive outcomes, that student performance has not suffered because we do not have the traditional system of brick and mortar model or classroom system. Then the other thing is that effectiveness of online classes basically depend on the course content, well-prepared instructors, and advanced technologies on which these are delivered. So that is also very important. Then students expect their online instructors to provide in-time feedback that is more interactive and more clear instructions. So a kind of more interactive learning environment is basically being created on use of these platforms. And the benefits of online learning, basically what literature said, includes flexibility in terms of approach, then more interactive with instructors, and improvement in virtual teaming skills also, which is also very, very important for such kind of environment where technology is changing very, very fast. Then what are the learnings on the Indian context? That is also very important because we are also very new in this platform in India. And our Indian studies have also basically, supported the view which we have just found in other countries. And they have also suggested the establishment of, few studies that we can have a kind of regulatory body or a kind of national policy on e-learning, because we are seeing a great future ahead also, not only in this pandemic time, but we are just seeing that in future also these kind of integration of e-learning in our traditional system will be quite important. Of course, infrastructure constraints in terms of internet connections, power breakups were highlighted by many of the studies. Then attitude of users and technology are also very, very important. So a kind of behavioral perspective is, or behavioral, learnings are also very, very important in use of this kind of technology. So now, so we have just categorized that there are different challenges of integration of e-learning into the traditional learning, that is basically summarized in terms of like limited internet connectivity, then high cost of connectivity, intermittent power disruptions, access to computers and other devices are low, scarce experienced human resources, and individual and organizations' readiness for e-learning, that is their perceptions and its expectations. We have to work basically on that aspect too. Then in IRI, we have also one NAHEP project, as our Dr. Sharma, National Coordinator, has already pointed out, on genomics assisted crop improvement and crop management. And we are one of the pioneer on making a separate website and initiating some kind of online lecture classes, online training also, which are also available on our website as well as on YouTube also. And very recently, once the pandemic just started, we did a kind of survey on students, that what are their preferences and perceptions of online education during this period. And I'm very proud of to say that we have done a kind of result of that is content analysis, which I am just placing, that basically I have just summarized in 3 major dimensions or 4 major dimensions. That is, one is the course content, then infrastructure, then teachers' competence, and faculty and student perception. We have to work basically on those 4 aspects. In case of course content, of course, highest importance was given to structure of content, how to design the content which is suited for this e-learning module. It is not that whatever we have on class to class or face-to-face interaction, we simply give that. We have to modify to suit that kind of platform. And of course, it has to be made more interactive, because we are not seeing face-to-face to the students or our clients. Similarly, we have found that many of the instructors have the low digital literacy levels. We have found the weaknesses in content structure creation also, then delivery methods also, then lack of feedback system. These are also identified as a major possible constraint for limiting the use of this kind of tool. Then some kind of in infrastructure weaknesses were also quite important in terms of clarity in audio visual and connectivity kind of thing. And then the perception and experience of learners, basically, because we have largely ignored this view. But if we want to make it more interactive and useful and flexible learning environment, then we have to work basically on building the positive perception and good, or bringing the best practices available to show them, to validate them, and then ultimately to practice them. Of course, so we have the challenges ahead in adapting the new normal, because we have accepted that this new normal is going to have for maybe quite some time. So how to basically deal with the challenges, and we have to move our higher education system going on also. So we have to work on institutionalization of physical distancing norm, and we can just do that because once our students will come, we have to create more space in the classroom, and our existing infrastructure might not allow in many of the universities where number of students are very large. So what we can do that we may be having a different shifts. We can have some kind of virtual digital platform so that simultaneously we can reach to many more students along with the traditional face-to-face system. Then, of course, the other challenge is that we have to enhance our gross enrollment ratio also. We have to outreach to the expansion in farther area, just like IRI has also 2 outreach program in far-flung areas. So we have to cater the regional needs also. Then keeping high morale of students and faculty, also meeting their expectations during this tough time where interaction is less, and students are also having more anxiety about their academic pursuits. Then curriculum changes, how we can do that, how we can update it, how we can make it more student centric, so that the integration of this online component in our traditional brick and mortar model become more and more effective. And for this, of course, we need a capacity building program of stakeholders. Just to identify the needs of the capacity building, we have to devise a program, and we have to have a more kind of refresher courses to basically plug in those kind of inadequacies. Then, of course, ensuring state-of-art institutional digital infrastructure is a very a must, not only hard, but the soft infrastructure also that we need to take on a big way. Of course, exploring innovative ways to ensure greater room for experiential learning, because in agriculture and allied sciences, irrespective of this, with the traditional system, we have many more practical orientation. So for practical orientation, because in engineering also we are saying, for example, we are also facing this kind of a problem in genomics kind of areas where we are having a caste center. So devising adequate module, innovative module, so that we can have more and more experiential learning or social learning, which is required, that we can build up in the system. That is a kind of a great job which we need to do. And then for that, basically, we need to build a pedagogical and technical competence in online learning. Then only we will be becoming more interesting, useful, and interactive. Then performance evaluation methodologies, that how we, for example, different kind of studies, that how we are, going ahead, what are the loopholes. And then we have to incentivize also for online engagements. We can have certain kind of instruments which basically encourage different institutions going more and more online also, as and when needed. Then finally, I just talk about certain recommendations to the new normal, how to adapt the new normal. First thing is that we have to think strategically, that how we are different than others, what are our strengths, and who are our client, what you want to devise, and accordingly we have to make those programs, what kind of information we need to get the feedback or system to operate. That is also very important. Then we have to find your own strength, that is, find your own sweet spot, that where you can do, or where, in what areas you can excel. For example, suppose in IRI, if we are good in kind of genomics or kind of engineering aspects, then we can maybe excel more and more in areas, and we can have a center of excellence in just like we have the CAFT programs in certain disciplines or in certain core areas. Then think about the scale, how we can basically multiply it, because then only we will be more effective in terms of human, financial, and technical resources. So those, we can just pilot some of the programs, and we can just scale it up and we can just think of that, how we can, who will be our clients. Then the last two options are basically that measuring effectiveness. A continuous evaluation, monitoring and evaluation is very important for making learning more effective and more cost effective, and satisfaction not only to the students, but to our policy makers also. And of course, for these, we need to bring in some kind of academic reforms also. We need to incentivize enhancement of online engagement between teachers and students, and providing those kind of tools, platforms, expertise, and capacity building, so that actually we can just have more or flexible kind of learning environments as compared to what we are doing right now in face-to-face interactions. So with this, I just finish my presentation. And once again, I'm very thankful to the organizers, Dr. Sharma also, for giving me an opportunity that what we are doing in IRI. And we are also, sir, I have just shared here in link one of the research paper also, which we have done based on the online survey of students, and another round of survey of faculty and students at this, that is after 3 months. Again, we are repeating it just to make that what works and what is not working, what are the best practices. So I would be glad to share this all with the NIHEP platform also. So with this, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and giving this very wonderful talk. I have no words to thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all. Thank you.
Now, our next speaker would be Dr. Sudeep Marwat. Dr. Sudeep ji.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Sudeep Marwa is also very young and dynamic academician, and He is also one of the PI of NHEP component 2, and he's looking after the division of computer application at ISRI as division head. Now, Dr. Sudeep, over to you, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words. Should I start sharing my screen?
Yes, Dr. Marwa, I'm not able to get out of that, actually.
Just stop sharing the button, otherwise.
Stop sharing.
Yes.
So again, it is coming sharing actually. Should I do? Is it fine?
I think I've stopped and now
Yeah.
my screen is visible.
मैडम हो गया सुदीप जी की शेयरिंग आ गई.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Again, from my own side and also from the Division of Computer Application ICR ISRI side, I thank the organizer for inviting us and especially me to deliver this talk. And I see a wonderful audience out there. There are still 500 or so people logged in, and they are and also I'm seeing multiple persons are sending messages in the chat, and they are participating through this wonderful tool and encouraging the speakers as well as interacting among themselves. So from my own side, congratulations to the organizers. The topic which I am going to deal with is IT system for agriculture education. My previous speaker and colleague, Dr. Alka, has very nicely elaborated the use of online learning. And since this is a new to many, but since I belong to the computer science background, and we are dealing with this type of courses from I think last 20 years. So I remember that we used to conduct this CAFT trainings on e-learning way back in 2007 and 2008. And I myself have done 21 days CAF training as a course coordinator on e-learning, and wherein obviously the contents were little different, the systems were little different. Things have changed. They have now come a long way since then, and we could actually take much more benefit now than we used to take earlier. Earlier, we were more concentrated on developing the e-content and then giving it through LMS systems like Moodle or Blackboard, something systems like that. And there are many initiatives which ICR has taken from last so many years. It's not like that that in this situation, this COVID-19 situation, Dr. Alka also said, and it's true, that all of us are able to adapt it quite swiftly, and there's not much trouble to the faculty as well as to the students to adopt these systems. Although there is a hitch, there is a mental block that exists, and that mental block has been broken by this COVID-19 situation. The systems were already there, the things were present, things could have been used earlier also for making best use of these IT tools, but somehow we were reluctant to do that because there was an easier option available of face-to-face teaching, and we could not hasten the benefits of these IT tools and technologies which we are building from like 15-20 years. The first thing which I would like to tell the audience is education portal. Let me go to the screen. Yes. So as I told that this ICT, which is a combination of hardware and software and telecommunication technologies, basically data, image and voice and networks and all such things, are the key to deliver these online courses. And we have now both machines and people which can transform the information into knowledge and then to intelligence. then appropriate use of knowledge by both people and machine contribute to sustainable development. And informed and empowered people know their role as citizens in a knowledge-driven society. So as we are going ahead, the society itself is becoming more and more knowledge-driven rather than some earlier materialistic things driven. Now it is more and more knowledge driven society, and the person who is having more knowledge and more better source of information, and they can actually be are the leaders, either in the education front also as well as in the business front also. So empowered machines have the knowledge to minimize energy, material use, waste and pollutants. Okay, so this is the agriculture education portal which was launched by the then Honorable Agriculture Minister Sri Radha Mohan Singh ji, and this is the system which all of us are using. All 75, 73 AUs are using this system, and this is owned by the Agriculture Education Division of ICR. And through this system, all the schemes which are coming under the agriculture higher education are delivered. Now these we have a complete network of AUs and colleges, and through which and through this system we can reach to each and every individual, whether it's students or faculty or different college administration, etc. So we have come up with this system, and nowadays all the demands which earlier used to come in a offline mode now are coming online. So the disbursement of the money and the collection of the demands and the justification of different items and everything scheme wise is now through this system. And it has many other things. Some of the items you can see on the screen, that it has option for all the three divisions of ICR headquarters, that is education planning and home science, that is EPHS, human resource development, and then education quality assessment and reforms, EQAR. So all three divisions and schemes under all three divisions are there in this education portal. And we are now during this COVID-19 situation, there are few processes which were left, which were not online, but now we are making those processes also online. These processes in the complete accreditation system which was there for the agriculture universities, we are now making them online. There are also other systems like university ranking system. Earlier it was offline. So this time we are making it online, and we are busy in meeting the deadlines so that this online university ranking online system becomes live. And this year this can be applied through online system. Then education portal has been developed as a single window system for providing vital education information, announcements, event schedules, e-learning resources from agriculture industry across the country to the rural youth in easy and fast way on their doorsteps. The portal also helps in management, monitoring and promoting activities, schemes of education division of ICR. It provides information about all programs of strengthening AUs, scholarships, trainings, e-learning resources, faculty strengthening managed by education division. It provides links and covers vital information of agriculture universities for the benefits of the students. Like each university has their own web page, and all the facilities and the things available, the courses available can be seen on this portal. It provides various links, information about courses like bachelor, master or doctor, the facilities about of each institution or university, student strength, faculty strength, and scholarships which are there in that university. Provides admission announcements uploaded by universities under notification head at the central place. So by using this, all the announcements can be seen from a central location. Provides information and search facility about events organized by the universities under event menu. So like this event is being organized, so you can also put this event for wider circulation under the event category of the university. It provides advanced search facilities with multiple search options such as stream, subject, course, category, and university college information on courses along with seats and eligibility criteria and other information. We have also come up with a new concept 3 years back, which is called as unique student ID. And we give this unique student ID to each and every student of the agriculture university system. So now each and every student is having this unique student ID, and this is given once in a lifetime. So a student, if a student gets it in the UG, the same USID is carried over to the PG and the post in the doctoral courses also. And by using this, we can track various students from where one student has done graduation, then where he has done the masters, and then the doctors. This is also being used now to give fellowships in the DBT scheme, direct beneficiary transfer scheme, and we are making that live also very shortly, wherein the student can apply themselves and the amount will straight away go to their accounts rather than going from making it beneficiary scheme, and things are moving in a very fast pace. It also provides facility advanced search facility with multiple search options, such as this I have covered. So next I will come to the next system, which is the academic management system. Now this academic management system is developed by ISRI, and is already running in 21 universities of the NARS system, that is National Agriculture Research and Education System. It has major features like that academic management system. It has complete administration module. It has course management, student management, faculty management, e-learning, and hostel management. And all the persons which are there in the university, like administration, student, faculty, guides, professors, and head of the departments, deans are the user of this academic management system. So each one of them are having their own user ID and password, and the system is totally a workflow driven system wherein all the processes have become online, and some like student apply for something and then guides approve it, then professor or head approves it, then it goes to the dean, and finally things are approved. So there are multiple processes which are there and which we have made online. These are the features in terms of the basic operations. The administration features like basic profile management and multiple role play functionality. Crude operations like create, read, update, and delete. So you can have manage disciplines, manage colleges, manage other courses, semester start and stop, student and faculty management, basic profile management of student and faculty, course registration and selection, manage minors and supplement supporting courses. We have almost 6 or 7 category of courses, right from the basic course, which are general courses like students appear for the exam, then the seminar courses, then the supporting courses, compulsory courses, non-credit courses, research courses. So we have different treatment for each of these different type of courses which are universities having. And we have a unique feature which is there, like which are very differentiating from for this system from others which are available in the market, is the creation of PPW and ORW. Or we have different names in different universities, but all the agriculture universities have this common feature that students create these PPWs and ORWs as they go along their course structure. So that feature is completely online available. We have also scheduling of classes, examination schemes, and examination dates, and then the assignment of the grades, course result, and then also progress reports after the end of each semester or trimester, and there is approval by guide or the professor. So it has a complete end-to-end system from the admission process till the degree delivery. It has huge number of reports, and these are the some of the print features like identity card, grade sheets, transcripts, degrees, etc. Then we have these are only I have shown few number of reports, but there are more than 100 reports available in the system at different levels. So you can once you have all the courses and everything else in the system, then you can very easily have discipline wise fees. You can get the report, discipline wise fellowships you can see, you can have course registration report. So there are so many courses which are multidisciplinary courses, and students come from different disciplines and take these courses online, or rather dynamically the class is created, and from this system we can very easily get who is in which course. So that is a very good report and very useful report from the administration point of view. Then we have a faculty allocation report, then student registration report, and about the courses and the roster forms. Then we can also get on a particular date, if the registration ends, that who are the students who have not registered till date, and then accordingly either you can give them you can charge them the late fees, or you can demand some explanation. Then we have a student result reports, failure reports, course-wise, who are the students who have failed, and course-wise as well as student-wise. Then discipline-wise reports, which in turn generates a lot of reports. Then coming to the workflows, we have a student approval, faculty approval, allocate faculty, allocate guide, faculty approval of students, guide approval of students, all this in the registration process. Then we have PPW process is complete by the approval of guide and the professor and the head. Then we have advisory committee approval. Then we have professor approvals of outline of research work and the guide approval. So we have so many workflows. And these are a list of few, administrative features from a university office side, and they are being used extensively. And I'm not going into detail of each one of these reports, but each one of this report is very useful while we are managing a big university. So these are some other reports. So this system was developed way back in 2007-8, and we implemented this system in IRI in 2009. And since then, for last 11 years, we are continuously supporting this system. And now this system is being used in 21 universities, as I told. And soon we are going to almost not mandatory, but applicable to all the universities. So the applicability of academic management system is now being debated that it should be mandatory, whether this academic system or somebody third party academic management system, but the academic management system should be must, so that we can have a top layer of information available from each of the university without asking, so that the one system can interact with the another system, and the information flow from the university, from the college to the university to the ICR headquarters becomes seamless. These are some of the screenshots of the system. This is a screenshot which we have implemented at the UHS Bagalkot, University of Horticulture Science Bagalkot. It has a multiple type of examination system. It can work, the system can work for fully internal examination. Then it can also work for external examination, and it also can work in the hybrid mode. This is how we assign roles to different faculties. These are some other screenshots. Then at the professor's level or head of the department level, we have so many features. Like we have features at the admin level, so we have so many features at the professor's level. Like these, he can manage his department through this system. And these are some of the screenshot how to add a new course in the system, and then how to offer a particular course. The new course can be created only once in 5 years or 4 years as per the university calendar. but these courses can be offered, and you can leave some courses which are there in the system, but you may not require to offer in a particular semester. So that is flexibility is there in this system. And then you can allocate the faculty to each course, and then you can also allocate guides to different students, which are these guides are actually the chairman of the advisory committee, and then you can also select various members in your advisory committee. And that's how a particular result sheet looks like after filling by the course leader. And these are the course schedules where the e-learning is part of this course schedule, and you can have a course schedule for each day. You can have a topic, and you can have a completion date of the topic, and then you can have number of lectures and the faculty who will teach this course. And with each lecture, you see here there are 5 files you can attach. Files like topic lecture notes, topic slides, topic assignment, topic references, and other resources. So with each lecture, you can attach these 5 files, and so that the complete course material is available in the system. And that's how you can see. And this is qualifying examination part, then online fees payment is an integrated payment gateway. And so we are implemented multiple payment gateway, whether it's SBI or whether it's a BillDesk, whether it's ICICI or SDFC. So all type of available gateways we have used in one university or another, and it's configurable. Then we have this is a online registration for the students, the roster form, how it looks like. And so these are different screens which I can show. And this is the PPW or plan of work or plan of postgraduate work. As I told, the name is different. In IRI, we call this PPW. In UHS Bagal code, they call it POW. Further things are same. Here and there are some changes, and this system is completely customizable as per the need of the university. So we can also change few things as per the rules and regulation of the university. And this is a grade point card. And this is the combined dashboard of 21 universities. So you can see there are right now under this academic management system, we have come up with a version 2 under NAHEP. So earlier there was a version 1.0. Now we have built a new system as a academic management system 2.0. And this system is now being used at 21 universities, 174 institutions and colleges. There are almost 15,652 registered students on this system right now. There are 3735 number of faculty, and there are 63 registered teachers, non-teaching staff, and there are almost 19,450 total number of users. 20,000 users are actually using this system as of now, and this is going to increase many folds in near future. So these are some other screenshots of the dashboard. These are the currently operational universities, and these are which we are saying that these are in operation. Then coming to the next system, which is there in the NARS system, is the e-learning portal, and it's available at ecourses.isri.s.in. And portal has been designed during NAIP period, during this 2011 to 2014, and still we are maintaining this portal. And I'm happy to announce that during this COVID-19 period, the hits have become doubled in this period. And this is extensively being used by the students since then. And we are maintaining since then the all UG, there are now 11 disciplines, but earlier there were 7 disciplines. So these 7 disciplines courses are available online, and the system is developed under in Moodle LMS. And we are getting almost 50 to 60,000 hits earlier in 1 month. And the courses are available in 2 modes, online mode and offline mode. Offline mode means there is a utility wherein you can download the complete Moodle course. And this is the home page of the system. And you can see that these are the universities who have developed these courses. but ISRI since then are maintaining this system. Then coming to the next initiative, which is e-learning portal. Going forward with this NAIP initiative under NAHEP component 2, we have created this e-learning portal. There is a difference in the concept of development of contents for these courses as compared to NAIP. You can see this screen that in NAIP, the 7 disciplines were covered and 7 universities were chosen, right? And each university has created the complete course structure of, like for BSc Agriculture, let's say TNAU has developed. For the dairy, NDRI has developed. Like this, different universities have developed different complete stream of courses. But so, what I want to say is that only 7 universities participated in the development of this curricula. Whereas in NAHEP period, we have made this open call, right? So under this is a portal where whenever there is a call, any faculty having a certain criteria, like we have put up criteria that the faculty must have 5 years of experience, then that faculty can register himself and apply for the development of the contents. And only on the 15th of the June, call 2 ends, wherein we have this development of online course contents for the UG level. And I am happy to announce that we have got a very good response, and over 2,000 faculty members have given their interest in these courses. And there are 2 separate logins, one for the agriculture universities, state agriculture university login, and one for the ICR deemed university logins. Because at the ICR level, we already have a single sign-on type of a system where we are having unique ID for each of the faculty member or the scientist, that is at the icr.gov.in ID, right? Whereas in university system, we didn't have right now a single ID system. So each university is having different IDs, and there are some universities which use general emails also, like Google Mail, Gmail, etc. This is a registration form for the user, and then they can apply for this courses. Like this is one of the courses. Then they can add their qualifications, and then they can select the application form for the content creation. And there are different roles available. There are content creator roles, there are content reviewer roles. In the PG part, the PG courses, we have 3 levels of 3-level structure. So first, the content creator for a particular unit. In the PG courses, there are each course is divided into multiple units, and each unit can be created by a different faculty member. So there is the content creator at the unit level, then the unit reviewer, and then the complete course reviewer. So we have 3-level structure in the PG level, whereas in the UG level we have 2-level structure. The content creator for the whole course or the course reviewer. So because in the UG level, most of the courses are built, as I told, in the NAIP period, and we have to revise it. That those courses were developed as per the recommendations of the 4th Dean's Committee. But we have now 5th Dean's Committee recommendations in place. So the newer syllabus is available. So we want to revise that content which is created in NAIP period. And this is how a faculty can see different course units and the syllabus against each unit. So now this IT, you can see that how beautifully it has allowed so many number of people to interact with each other and to make a online platform, a virtual platform for the content creation. Similarly, at the nodal officer desk, so like each university has ICR nodal officer, so this is approved by the nodal officer application approval part, and then we can have admin facilities. These are the screens for the admin. We can add different BSMA groups or disciplines. We can have different courses available. So the complete structure we have built, and at present we have chosen 2 courses from each discipline. So we have 72 disciplines at the master's level. So we have chosen 2 courses for each discipline. That is 144 courses we are trying to create. And this is, of course, that each discipline must have more than 50 courses or 30 courses. So this is only a pilot project. So this same platform will be happy to migrate it to the mainstream education division level, where the education division can support all the universities in development of these courses. So these are more screenshots. I'll not go into the detail of these screenshots. So the next system which I want to show is the CVP portal. And this portal is basically a part of the capacity building portal. Is a part of the HRD division of the ICR education division, wherein we have these 21 days summer winter school courses and craft training programs. And these courses are now available online across subject areas. And the complete system is now from last so many years, those courses are, this system is online, and right from the application of the courses till the final feedback of by the participants, the complete structure is online. This is the system screenshot, and these photos are dynamic, and as soon as the course leaders upload these photos, it comes on the home page. These are the total number of participants till date. More than 18,937 participants have actually trained, and 295 books and total lectures available are 9,714. Then we have another system in the ICR. It's not now operational in the universities, but that system is also deals with some type of education. So I'm explaining it here. That is training management information system. And as per the DOPT guidelines, each employee of an organization must be trained 2 to 3 times in their lifetime. So this system is meant for maintaining and managing the complete workflow of the trainings done by employee. Trainings means training done by the faculty, training done by the non-teaching staff, training done by the administrative staff. That is one and all. And it allows the director or the head of the institution to find out who has been trained and when he has been trained and on which topics he has been trained. So it's a very useful system, and we have a unique feature in this, which is called as annual training plan. Now this annual training plan, one can create organization wise or institution wise, and the same can be then worked upon throughout the year. So the system is basically built by in coordination with the ICR HRM division, and this is the architecture of the system. And these are the 4 processes which we have been made online. That is training needs assessment, training application process, training feedback process, and training evaluation process. The implementation part, this is available at hrm.icr.gov.in, and then the information related to training needs of the employee are captured, and suitable trainings are being designed as per the requirements. So it is very useful in managing as well as in conceptualizing the different type of trainings as per the need of the employees. The complete training application process is done through the system online, and no paperwork or manual process is involved. The feedback is filled by the trainees in the online system, and the evaluation is also done online through the system. Then we have our training manager, who is the ADG at HRM, and he can see on his one mouse click who is having which type of a training in which year and in which topic across ICR. These are other processes, different things. I will not go into the more details, but we can have a training requirement cadre wise, then we have a training profile of employees, we have institute wise annual training plans, we have also cadre wise, discipline wise, gender, age group wise different reports. So this are other features of the system, and this is how it looks like. And these are different photographs of the trainees. And then I just want to add another system. See, we have in NARS, National Agriculture Research and Education System, we have majorly three type of physical networks. One network is of our state agriculture universities and their colleges, etc. Second network is our ICR institutions, which are 113 in number with around 350 regional stations. Then third network is the KVK network, almost more than 700 KVKs in all districts. And at ICR and at IASRI, we have developed three portals. One for education portal, which I was explaining, that is for agriculture universities. We have this KVK portal for the managing all 700 KVKs, and we have an ICR portal for managing all the 113 ICR institutions. So altogether, these three networks we are capturing and we are making synergize between these three networks, which deals with your agriculture research, extension, and education. So these are the different features of the KVK portal and mobile app. And we are now making this mobile app as a single mobile app for all 700 KVKs. And it has features like you can find out facilities for each under each Krishi Vigyan Kendra. You can have district-wise package of practices. You can have all the events captured which are organized by the KVKs. You have audio, video clips, and images. You have district-wise 5 days, next 5 days agrometeorological advisories. You have video galleries. You have contingency plans for the districts. Then farmer can also send their queries through the mobile app, and this mobile app can capture the text, video, audio, or images which can be sent, and it automatically hit to the KVK of that district or the same district where the farmer is coming from. And the KVK head has a responsibility to answer that question or the query back to the farmer. This is how it looks like, KVK mobile app as well as the portal. And it has also captured various national level events like Krishi Unnati Mela, the Sankalp Siddhi, the Krishi Kalyan Abhiyan, etc. So Krishi Kalyan Abhiyan 1 and 2 is captured totally through this system and monitored by the Ministry of Agriculture. There are different features at the KVK level, and there are different features at the Atari level as well as at the ICR headquarters, that is Agriculture Extension Division level. These are the major events covered: World Soil Day, Swasthai Seva, Sankalp Siddhi, Krishi Unnati Mela, KK Phase 1, that is Krishi Kalyan Abhiyan Phase 1, wherein 2792 villages under 112 districts were covered, then KK2 and then KK3, and then Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi and crop residue management, etc. So all these big events we have captured. These are all the users of this system: farmers, Atari directors, KVK head, managers like DDG, ADG, DG of ICR, then subject matter specialists. And these are some screenshots of the mobile app. And then we have partnered with IVRI to develop certain educational mobile apps. So we have developed 11 mobile apps, and some of them are available in 9 to 10 languages. Like this mobile app, that is Animal Reproduction app, is available in English, Hindi,